ceann comhairle inniu táimid bailithe le chéile chun gníomhachtaí a chur bhaim chun dul in leis an éigeandála mar tharla riamh roimhe seo. Sular phléimiid an réachtaíocht éigeandála seo, bhuaithlim ómós a gabhail dómh siúd go léir a chuaigh le chéile ar aon céim an iarracht náisiúnta ollmhór seo. Is meitheal é ag obair ar scáil a chéile a bhhairn daoine. Ar bhíonn cuairim sláinte ar stát seirbhíseach. Dómh siúd atá ag obair sna húdaráis áitiúla. Daoine atá ag obair go deonach ó Dáil Éireann, an Garda Síochána, non-díaltóirí feirmeoirí agus oibrithe iompar. Ar gurmóirí agus ar locht cuairim. Ar naibrithe puist. Dómh siúd go léir sa saol religúnach agus lochtainna cogusíochta, targethe bia agus seirbhísí bia agus gléas leighis. Tá cách ag freagart an dúshláin agus tá ar muintir fearmhuíoch as sin. Bhuaithlim curniúil do chuileanna comhairle sláinte an pobal a leanúint agus mullam go leanfaí sibh ar aghaidh leis an 5 céim atá molta. Ní do lámh rialta, deabhéas a bheith agat agus tú ag casacht, chuinnig do lámh ó daig, fad fisiciúla cumad agus fannach Somála muna bhfuil tú ar fónamh. Tá an plán éigeandála táimid ag tarrant isteach inniu riachtanach chun an vírus a chur faoi smacht. Déanfaí an reachtaíocht le ling tréimhse na éigeandála na barta seo leanas. Cíosanna a bheith róite, cosca chur ar dí chealbhú, é a bheith níos éasca do lucht cuairim sláinte a achlárú agus dul arás ag obair, agus iarmhéal dó Dáil Éireann a chur a gcumas agus iad ag dul arás arís san arm cosanta ag an géim ina raibh siad nuair a d'éirigh siad as. Tréimh se anheacair se I de gach duine in Éireann agus ar fud an domhan, a cum a cad a thuchas beag héal agus do chláinte chun tosaí i gcónaí ribh aon cuairim eile atá os ar gcóir. Ceann comhairle, I'm going to share my time with Minister Donoghue with your permission. We're meeting here today to take unprecedented actions to respond to an unprecedented emergency, and I'm grateful to you and to all our public representatives for facilitating this work. I also want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to the staff in Leinster House for going about their business with such efficiency while following the recommended guidelines on physical distance. Our laws derive their legitimacy in the first place from being passed by a democratically elected Oireachtas, and your work enables our democratic life to continue in these most trying of circumstances. And it's precisely at times like this that we need to see it in action at the most. I also want to put on record the constructive role played by the opposition parties and independents to date in the main. The government is grateful to you for your understanding, goodwill and cooperation, and it has been an example of politics working well. It shows that when faced with a common foe, we can put aside our differences and work together for the good of our country to protect livelihoods and save lives. Following my speech, Minister Donoghue will provide you with an economic overview of the bill and give a detailed outline of what's proposed. Later, after the contributions of each party and grouping in this chamber, Mr Humphreys will conclude by looking at the bill more broadly and how it will affect business. In the committee and remaining stages, we'll have government contributions from Ministers Harris, Donoghue, English, Keogh, Humphreys and others to ensure that as many of your questions and concerns can be answered. Unfortunately, we cannot stop this virus, but working together, we can slow it in its tracks, push it back and put it back in its box. Our national objective is to suppress the virus and flatten the curve. And we can succeed if everyone takes sustained action. Nothing less will do. That includes, of course, all of us here. No unnecessary meetings, use video conferences and the telephone, keep a physical distance. As a doctor and also as a politician, I know the value of repetition. Give advice, the best advice, give it again, and keep repeating it until it becomes second nature and ingrained. So I want to advise everyone in the public to follow the public health advice and to keep following these 5 basic steps. Simple steps that protect all of us from the virus. Regular hand washing, coughing etiquette, not touching your face, maintaining a physical distance, and staying at home if you feel unwell. Ceann comhairle, for the past 3.5 years, so much of our political time and energy was taken up by the issue of Brexit. Who would have thought quite a different crisis would bring our country to a standstill. Time expended preparing for the impact of a possible no deal. More time spent ensuring that we avoided an outcome that did not see a return of a hard border on the island of Europe, or borders between Ireland and Britain. Simpler times, perhaps. But in one sense, this was valuable time that in other circumstances might have been directed at other pressing national issues. However, there has been one very positive side effect. Because of the thousands of hours devoted by our civil servants and officials to prepare for all possible eventualities, because of the work our ministers did to ensure that we'd be able to withstand the worst effects of a no-deal Brexit, we're now in a better position than if we were starting to think about some of these issues for the first time. For example, the time spent thinking about supply lines, about the impact of a sudden shock to the economy, about the money we set aside thanks to prudent management of our public finances. All of this is now being deployed against a single, different kind of national threat. When it comes to so many of our plans that we had on the shelf, we're simply rubbing out Brexit and writing in coronavirus. We did not expect or predict a pandemic of this kind, although plans were present and afoot to deal with it. But we were very much prepared for an economic crisis, and we're in a much stronger position today as a result, going into this crisis with a budget surplus, a falling debt, a rainy day fund and cash on hand. So I want to assure the public that although the challenges will be great, we are ready to face them. And although the cost of these measures will be very high, we are prepared to pay that price, even if it takes a number of years. We can bear it, and we will be able to pay back what we borrow as a nation, and will do so willingly because it was the right thing to do, because we owed it to our fellow citizens to protect their lives and their livelihoods. We believe that by maintaining the link between employees and employers and companies, it will be easier for us to bounce back when this is all over. These actions will keep our economic infrastructure intact. It will also give business the best chance of making it through the crisis. We're also making sure that the self-employed are covered. I know the sacrifices that many of our self-employed people have made to build up their businesses and practices, and I know how worried they are now. And we will do all that we can to help sustain the self-employed and bring them through this emergency as well. Ceann Comhairle, today we're asking the Oireachtas to pass emergency legislation to respond to the COVID-19 emergency. Emergency actions that will mitigate the impact of the virus and enable us to continue to provide public services. Today's legislation, to last for the duration of the emergency, will freeze rents, prevent evictions, make it easier for healthcare professionals to re-register and return to work, and also enable former members of the Defence Forces to rejoin at the rank they left, with no penalties. We know that the financial impact of mass redundancies over a short period of time will have a serious impact on the ability of business to recover. So we're extending the time periods under which a person who has been laid off and kept on short time due to COVID-19 can claim a redundancy payment from their employer. So much work is taking place to help save and protect lives. For example, we've also approved a framework agreement with private hospitals so they can operate effectively as public hospitals under Section 38 of the Health Act for the duration of the emergency. This will add over 2,000 beds, 9 laboratories, critical care capacity and thousands of staff to our health service. Some, of course, have asked and might ask why these things were not done before, why we've previously objected to measures such as rent freezes, for example, or a moratorium on evictions, or co-opting private healthcare. The truth is, these are extraordinary times. For example, property rights are always subject to the common good in our Constitution, and I don't think anyone would argue that this is an extraordinary situation in which the common good overrides. We know rent freezes, for example, in places like San Francisco didn't work. Landlords just sold up and often sold on to owner-occupiers, meaning fewer properties were available to rent. We know in Berlin that even the announcement of a rent freeze caused investors and developers and builders to build fewer homes and more hotels and offices instead, because the return was better. So in normal circumstances, a rent freeze would actually make things worse. It would reduce the supply of places to rent and freeze out people who need to rent for the first time, students, migrants, young people who want to leave home. But this is a temporary policy. It is only for a few weeks, and hopefully only for 12 weeks. However, that is not to say that some emergency policy changes might not make sense as longer-term policy changes as well. When it comes to childcare, our plan had always been to expand ECHE and to expand the National Childcare Scheme incrementally, thereby reducing the amount parents have to pay. In some ways, we've done that in one fell swoop, an incremental measure done very quickly, and we might decide, perhaps as a House, not to roll back that entirely. And another area is sick pay. Workers in low-paid sectors should not have to be out of work for 6 days to qualify for income support. 6 days is far too long. It's bad policy, both in terms of social justice, the economy, and public health. Desperate times do not call for desperate measures. Rather, they call for composure and for radical responses that will provide hope and bring maximum benefit to those who need them most. This legislation is designed to do exactly that. Ceann Comhairle, we will be remembered for what happened after this emergency visited our shores, when we faced our greatest challenges. I believe it will be a story of a great national effort to withstand the worst of it, to come out of it less scathed than other countries, and how every country and every person played their part. Finally, I want to acknowledge that this emergency has already cost lives, and I want to extend my condolences to all the families who have been bereaved and the friends of those who have died as well. It's also cost people their jobs, and it is going to get worse before it gets better. People are afraid, and they're looking for reassurance from us. Politicians don't always have a good reputation. Very often we don't deserve one. But we have an opportunity as a House, all parties and independents, to shine in the next couple of weeks. Not as individuals, but as a group, as a body politic. We can show that the ideals that first motivated us all to enter politics can sustain us and ring true when our country needs hope the most. Gur míle maith.